Welcome to Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt of the Marquardt Law Firm at marquardtlawfirm.com.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt on KLUP 930 AM The Answer. Podcasts everywhere, Facebook, YouTube, and talklawradio.com. I'm here talking with special guest, Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army retired Jeffrey F. Addicott, who is a full professor of law and director of the Warrior Defense Project at St. Mary's University School of Law in San Antonio, Texas. We've been talking about the war between Israel and Hamas, and we've been talking about what is lawful versus unlawful use of force here. So let's pick up there, Professor.
Sure. I mean, we talked about people, need to inform themselves about things. And again, Christians, for example, you'll see many Christians that will carry these signs that will say, thou shalt not kill, and violence never solves anything. Did you ever read the Bible? It doesn't say thou shalt not kill. It says thou shalt not murder. A big difference. Sometimes people need killing. Criminals need to be executed when they are found guilty of vile murder. The Bible authorizes the death penalty. It's legal and it's moral. Same with combat. That's how you win a war, is by killing the enemy, and that's not murder. As long as we are targeting combatant soldiers and abiding by the law of war, which both, by the way, was set out by Moses, they had their own law of war about what you could and couldn't do. So we follow these civilized laws of war, which are very deep in our heritage, and we have to engage in war from time to time. I also remind people that, Jesus himself holds a record for killing people, 185,000 Assyrians outside the gate of Jerusalem, when Hezekiah was king. So, yeah, people need to discern, exactly what is happening here. So, yes, I wish we had a world where there was no war. I wish we had no crime. But as my great-grandmother said, you can spit in one hand and wish in the other and see which one fills up first. You have to deal with reality as reality exists, or you will get a whole lot of people killed. So we should work for periods of where we can expand the time between wars, but you're not going to get rid of wars by negotiating with totalitarian regimes. If you're just a armchair student of history, you can see that's not true. It's just not going to happen. So the Israelis have the right and they have the responsibility to protect their own people to engage in this conflict. But yes, it'll never be over. There'll be another conflict probably in 5 or 10 years with another banner. And that's just the way humans are.
And another book that you wrote called Union Terror talks about why it's not unjustified to use terror in any war, even the Civil War.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful book. It's called Union Terror, and what I did in the book is most people are kind of vaguely familiar with Sherman marching across Georgia, about a 30-day march from Atlanta to Savannah, and then they said, well, they know that he had to go into some farms and do this and do that. Well, the horror that he inflicted on innocent civilians is not as bad as Hamas, of course, but it was pretty despicable. And they violated the law of war as it then existed. And I dispelled all the false justifications. One of them was, he said, well, I had to take food and provisions from the civilians because my army couldn't survive without it. That was an out and out lie. In the book, I dispelled that. He took along with him 10,000 cattle when he left Atlanta, 2,500 brand new wagons, stuffed with enough supplies and food to last the entire march. He didn't need to take an ear of corn. They did it because they were trying to burn out civilians to get them to stop the war. He engaged in war crimes. He engaged in terrorism. They burned down civilian homes of women and children. The men were all gone. And black Southerners, white Southerners, no distinction whatsoever. Free blacks, enslaved blacks, no distinction whatsoever. And I've got it all documented in the book. And so, interestingly, in 1944, the Germans had a magazine called Signal. On the front cover, they had a picture of General Grant, who authorized the movement. And in the magazine, they talked about the war crimes that the Union had committed on innocent civilians. And their message, of course, the Allies were just landing in 1944. Their message was, you can expect the same treatment civilians from the Americans. They were using it as their own propaganda element. So there's no excuse for engaging in war crimes, and our hands are not clean, of course, but you learn from the past. You learn from these things. You move forward. You educate yourself, and hopefully we're doing a better job than we have done a better job. And hopefully by remembering these lessons from the past, we won't repeat those mistakes.
Tell us about the work that you did with the Center for Terrorism.
Right. So the Center for Terrorism Law, as I indicated earlier in the show, I just worked closely with the Bush administration, during the height of the war on terror during his 8 years in office, and of course worked with the Trump administration as well when ISIS was destroyed. Radical Islam kind of went back in their holes, because it's hard to say God's on your side when your leader al-Baghdadi is dead. Your cities that you took over and raped and pillaged your way across Syria and Iraq, you've been eradicated. And so the attacks across Europe of supporters of ISIS, they kind of stopped. And of course, so we switched gears to our Warrior Defense Project, where I've been doing this on the side now for about 15 years, defending soldiers wrongfully accused of misconduct in the performance of their duties, ranging in cases, soldiers charged with murder for shooting the enemy in combat, soldiers' careers destroyed because they violated the supercilious rules of engagement when they're fighting the enemy, all sorts of cases. I've defended doctors that, dared to give medical exemptions to people that didn't want the COVID shot, and they were basically crucified for, going against the narrative at the time. So, yeah, just a lot of different cases ranging from A to Z. And
how does it work? You have students that help you with that, right?
Yes, I have law students that help me do that, and they get the benefit of learning, a lot of valuable skills, ranging from interviewing witnesses to deposition skills, to research, writing. And so, yeah, they rotate in. My bad news, of course, I only got them for about a year and a half before they graduate, and then I got new ones I have to train all over again. So, but yeah, it's a valuable experience for them. And to my knowledge, we're the only law school in the country that actually does this. And again, I've done 150 cases, and we don't charge a dime for it. If anybody would like to get more information, please contact me, because we're always looking for benefactors, because it costs money to fly to Fort Bragg and back, and to hire expert witnesses and do all the other things that we have to do. So I'm always seeking people that would like to, to support us, and we're very cognizant of where those dollars go. So again, it's all pro bono to the soldiers.
And what number should they call, or how should they get in touch if they do want to make a donation?
Sure, just call me directly, because I always, I'm very cautious about donating myself. I always tell people, hey, come to our law school. Let me give you a tour of the facility. Let me show you what we do, because there's so many scam artists out there these days, as you know and I know. So I always tell people, do your due diligence about who you're giving your money to. So yeah, just call me. You can look that information up on the St. Mary's website. My email's there, and I'll be more than happy to meet with anybody and give you a tour of our facility and show you exactly what we do. We have an annual report that comes out which details all the cases, where every penny goes, and what we do.
But you're director of that program through St. Mary's, right? It's
Yes.
under the umbrella of St. Mary's?
Sure is. St. Mary's Law School. So my cell is 887-0429, which is 210. So 887-0429.
Okay, great. Now, do the students have to learn some type of military code of conduct as opposed to like state criminal defense law?
There's a lot of similarities. For example, the federal rules of evidence are exactly the same as the military rules of evidence, word for word. But I do like to, if I can, I like to get law students that have a military background, because when I say things like TDY or the acronyms, they, oh, I know what that is. So people that don't have a military background, they have a higher learning curve to learn the military way of doing things.
Okay, and do you have a large percentage of students coming from the military?
We do. There's a lot of folks that are, in the National Guard or prior service, and so I'd say about half of the people that help me have a military background of some sort, but it's not a requirement. The only requirement I've got is that, are you a worker?
Right. Good work ethic.
Good work ethic. And, I'd rather have someone that has a great work ethic as a B student than someone that's just really smart and has a bad work ethic and is an A student.
Yeah, me too. You mentioned your grandmother, something she said about spit in one hand and hope in the other. Was she important to you?
Actually, she was my great grandmother, and she was from Alabama. Her father actually was one of the soldiers that fought Sherman. Uh, so it was a very interesting. I'm a Southerner, so my Southern heritage is very important to me, which is also, of course, under attack from people that want to attack everything Southerners evil, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, she was very important, and our family, of course, has a long military history. We fought in the American Revolution. My dad's a World War II veteran, shot down the Korean War. I myself am a veteran. So, yeah, we're all about God and country from as long as I can think. And, parents have an obligation to raise their kids with these basic values so you know what the truth is. Don't leave it to the school system, as we're saying. Many things in the school system are disoriented to reality as well. Many things are good, many things are not good, but parents ultimately have the right and the responsibility to raise good citizens in this country, because if we don't have people that are willing to love this country and fight for this country, we won't have a country at all.
Amen. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to have to end the show, but I wanted to express gratitude from Talk Law Radio, Marquardt Law Firm, and all patriots in this area. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Todd. My pleasure.
So I also wanted to mention some things in the news locally. With San Antonio growing, you'll see a bunch of traffic on 1604. There's going to be a road closure there between I-10 and Military on 1604, so you don't want to run into that this weekend. And that just so happens to be the area where I have to drive to get to my office. So, but thank goodness it's the weekend and I won't have to drive that route now. Something else that came up that was funny I saw was the zoo will allow you to bring your pet to the zoo today. And Lexi, my little white dog, really wanted to go. But unfortunately, after I leave the radio station today, I have to head to the office. I'm going to have some consultations with people, and that'll take up my whole afternoon. And so Lexi's a bit disappointed, but she was happy to get to come to the radio station today. If you have any comments or questions about terrorism law, you can email me at host@talklawradio.com. That's HOST@talklawradio.com. I'm Todd Marquardt. I'll talk to you later.
This has been Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt, brought to you by the Marquardt Law Firm. You can learn more at marquardtlawfirm.com. And be sure to listen to the full Talk Law Radio show Saturday mornings at 11 on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Each week, attorney Todd Marquardt talks about the law. His mission with the Talk Law Radio show and podcast is to help you discover your legal issue blind spots. In the beginning, God had one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then came the 10 Commandments. Now we have federal, state, and municipal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws. Laws that might impact you without you knowing it. Listen to the show and drop a line on Facebook or email host@talklawradio.com and let the host know what you think of the show, the topics you want to hear, and whether you want to be a guest.